Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. The webinar series on restaurant marketing basics for the digital age is part of the services and the technical assistance that is being provided to the restaurants participating in the Backing Historic Small Restaurants Program grant that has been developed and supported by American Express and the National Trust for Historic Preservation. My name is Gustavo Ustaris, and I am a marketing specialist with the National Main Street Center. And we are going to be providing the content for the webinar series supporting the marketing efforts of the restaurants. This is the first of a series of 3 webinars that we will be conducting in the next couple of weeks. So to start off, we want to talk a little bit about digital marketing for restaurants and what is some of the landscape that you are going to be faced with when you are doing digital marketing this year, and what are some of the opportunities and some of the things that you need to keep in mind for doing this work, for the long term, 2021 and beyond. So the program objective for the 3 webinars is to provide restaurant owners and managers with an overview for drafting a marketing plan, as well as giving actionable tips and ideas that you can use to reach and to communicate with a selected target market using different digital channels that are available to you. For this session today, we are going to focus on what are the basics of restaurant marketing and how those basic elements and basic fundamentals for marketing a restaurant have a significant implication for the digital space and for making sure that your plan is going to have a seamless execution between your digital and your traditional marketing. So we will be reflecting on the importance of knowing who your target market or markets are, what are their motivations and their needs and preference, and what are your products and services satisfying, and how are you being able to connect with the needs and preference of those target markets, and how all that comes together in a marketing plan. So like I said before, the basics of restaurant marketing as important as ever. In order to be able to create that seamless marketing strategy where you are incorporating some elements of digital marketing as well as traditional marketing channels, you need to make sure that you have a clear understanding to who you are doing your marketing effort to and what are the needs and the preferences of that specific target market that you want to satisfy. One of the early and key takeaways that we want to mention today is that the best marketing that any restaurant can do is to try to meet or, if possible, exceed the expectations of their guests. Your guests are going to select your restaurant for a very number of reasons, and we are going to discuss some of those later on. But whatever the reason that your customers are coming to your restaurant for, if you are able to meet their expectations or if you are able to exceed their expectations, that is possibly the best marketing that you can do. So in essence, one of the key marketing activities of your restaurant is not even a marketing activity. It's an activity that has to do with the delivery of the services that you are providing. The marketing that you can do for your restaurants can definitely enhance the value proposition of what your offering is, but there is really no substitute from the point of view of marketing to what you can be able to achieve by producing, and delivering delicious food and great service. There is really no amount of marketing that can overcome or compensate for a lack of the core product, service, and offerings that you have. So you need to keep that in mind, that your marketing will only enhance, your marketing will help you, but will not be able to substitute any sort of shortfalls that you might have in other areas. For that, you would need to focus on, improving operations or improving other areas of the business that can then, be highlighted through the marketing effort, but you cannot look at it as a substitute for it. We are coming out of a very difficult year for restaurants, and, it has been obviously a very difficult and challenging time. So, even before the pandemic and everything that we went through last year, cleanliness was always a top of mind for restaurant owners and managers, and obviously for customers as well. We need to look at that now, not as a differentiating factor, but as a given. From now on, customers visiting restaurants or customers ordering food from restaurants to be delivered at home will assume that cleanliness and safety should be an expectation and should be a given. And it really no longer something that you can use as a differentiating factor or as a value add, because customers are going to expect that it is. Obviously, if your customers are coming to you in person, then the appearance, the physical appearance of your restaurant is going to still be very important. Everything from the outside, the perimeter of the restaurant, the entryway, the dining area, and obviously the cleanliness of the restrooms are going to be a key factor that customers are still going to pay a lot of attention to. And, you might be thinking, how does this tie in with marketing? And then when we talk a little bit later on about the power of social media and reviews, we are going to be able to see that, certain flaws or certain, oversights that we can have when we are dealing with the cleanliness and the safety of our restaurants, unfortunately can do a lot of reputational and marketing damage online, especially when customers are the ones that are sharing now the information, and, information is being shared pretty much in real time. So it's very important for us to make sure that we have our bases covered when it comes to cleanliness and to safety and to all of the other elements that should be there to enhance the experience. So now directly into the marketing. So the step one for marketing, before we decide where we want to market, before we decide what social media channels we want to use, before we decide, what sort of template or style of a website we want to have or anything else, the first step that we need to think about when we are planning our marketing effort is to identify who we are going to be marketing to. And this can sound very, very simple, but a lot of the times we overlook the fact that we need to narrow down and to select specific target markets because we are hopeful, or we are of the idea that maybe our restaurant, our product or service offerings can be delivered to a wide range of customers. So even if we have a wide range of customers, we need to do the effort of really identifying who the key target market or markets, because it could be more than one, are the ones that I'm going to be specifically trying to target and to communicate with in our marketing. Because knowing who our customer is and knowing what their needs and preferences are is really going to inform our marketing strategy, and is going to allow us to create marketing content and to create advertising and everything else related to our marketing that is going to be appealing and that is going to be attractive to that specific market. So step one, we need to identify who our target market is. Now that we know who, we need to then identify the where. And obviously everybody is wanting to take advantage of the internet and everything that digital media, whether it be websites or social media or messaging apps or review sites or anything else possible, we want to take as much advantage of it for our marketing as possible. So we know who we want to market to. That is our target market, our audience. Now we identify where we will communicate our message with and how we are going to engage in that conversation. And, in the same manner that we are thinking about, leveraging the internet and the vastness and the many different channels that are available digitally to target our markets and to start that conversation. At the same time, there are hundreds, thousands of other businesses, competing businesses that are doing or thinking about doing the same thing. So one of the things that we are going to have to think about once we decide on the where is how are we going to stand out in a vast sea of information. I have some statistics here that are sort of like a wow factor, just so that you can sort of grasp, what sort of a size of space we are talking about. So, and a couple of elements also to think about when you are deciding which platforms to use for your digital marketing. So for example, currently, more than half of web searches are now made from a cell phone. not from a laptop, not from a desktop computer, but from a cell phone. So that is definitely something to keep in mind when you are putting together your strategy and when you are working on the design of a website or something else. The fact that people are going to be probably seeing your content online on a phone screen. So, you need to make sure that your content online is adapted and is optimized for use and for viewing in a small screen. Just to give you an idea about how much search and how much content is delivered online, Google, which is the main search engine, processes 3.5 billion searches every day. That's an average of 40,000 searches every second. On Instagram, every minute of the day, there are 47,000 photos that are posted, and there are almost 4 million videos that are watched on YouTube on a single day. So there is an enormous amount of information. And one of the things that you need to start thinking about is, what are you going to be able to do to stand out? How are you going to be able to identify and to connect with that specific audience? This is a little bit of a visualization of what we were talking about before. So, just some of the examples here. Facebook, 147,000 photos uploaded every minute. 555 dining orders ordered on DoorDash every minute. 150,000 messages shared on a Facebook, and you can see all the other ones here. So, this is just a little bit of a visualization of the amount of information that is available. And it's important for us to keep in mind, because when we are planning our strategy for online content, we need to really connect and think about, who is going to be our audience to watch that content, and what sort of content resonates and what might be of interest to that audience, so that you can navigate through all the clutter and through all this other barrage of information that is coming the way of the potential customer. So before, we were talking about the importance of knowing who our target market is. And then once we know who they are, we want to do a bit of research and to understand what their motivations are. We need to start asking ourselves and thinking to ourselves, and most of you probably have already done this exercise, but it's always very healthy from the strategy perspective in marketing to do this, and to come back to it every once in a while, in case there are changes in the marketplace that you can be, updating your effort. But you need to think about, why do people go out to eat? What is the reason that the people that visit your restaurant are going out to eat? Why are they coming to your restaurant and not to the restaurant across the street or down the street or across town? People have food at home. It's probably cheaper for people to cook their own food at home. So there has to be some specific motivations that people have to eat out. And we need to be able to research and to study and to identify which one of those motivations are the ones that are important to our target market, so that we can then focus on that for our marketing effort. I've made a list here. This is obviously not an all-inclusive list. There are probably many more, but these are the majority, or at least the most common motivating factors that people have when they decide to go out to eat, or nowadays as well when they decide to order in. Because you are thinking of your restaurant, and obviously you might have a storefront location, a physical location for your restaurant. But in some cases, you probably already have, or you are thinking about creating a platform for delivery or pickup or any other sort of way to complement your physical location. So, the motivating factors can be different depending on those two scenarios, whether it's going out to eat or ordering in, but you need to be able to identify them. So, for example, the first one, convenience. Sometimes people decide to go out to eat in a restaurant because it's convenient, because your restaurant is located to or from a location that a person needs to travel. So it's very convenient for them to stop on the way, or because of speed, because they don't have time to prepare a meal and they need to go somewhere or they need to do something else. And then the convenience would be there, the speed. Another motivating factor for certain restaurant visits has to do with status. You know, we are talking about the see and be seen experience of somebody visiting a restaurant because they want to be seen eating at a certain location, or because they want to be associated with a certain brand or a certain a place where people are going. You know, it's kind of a socializing event or activity. Another motivating factor could be for entertaining friends or family. You have family or you have friends that are coming into town or that are visiting, and you decide that you want to take them out for a dinner or for something else. So that could be part of the motivating factors. Other times it could be nostalgia. You know, people go out to certain restaurants or people will order certain meals from a menu because it reminds them of the cooking from, you know, a relative, their grandmother, their mother, or somebody else. It could be a comfort food that you associate in your mind, you know, with a happy moment or something else. So nostalgia can be a very powerful driver for restaurant visits, and it's something that you can definitely work into your menu when you're planning your menu. Other times it could be indulging a craving. You know, somebody might decide to go out on a restaurant to eat a meal that it's probably not easy for them to do at home, or it's something that they would just rather eat as a treat that they would do every once in a while and not like as a regular item at home. So they're indulging on that craving. I know for a lot of restaurants, the indulgence in cravings can be very profitable when you prepare and plan a dessert menu or an after dinner drink menu that you can use to complement the meals in your restaurant. You know, that could be one of the strategies that you use and can help you in increasing your average spend per patron, per restaurant patron. Another one of the reasons or motivations for visiting a restaurant could be work-related or networking. You know, people go out to restaurants to meet with a client or to meet with coworkers or to meet with a potential business partner or business opportunity. So that creates the space for that. Other times it could be a novelty. You know, you want to go out to a restaurant because you want to experience something out of the ordinary, a type of meal that you would normally not eat in other instances, or the experience around the meal, which maybe there is entertainment happening in the restaurant while the meal is being served and consumed. So there are a lot of different ways where you can add the novelty experience to the restaurant, or it could be maybe the theme of a restaurant that is attached to a specific culture or to a time or something like that. So we know that it's important for us to identify who our customer is. Once we have identified who our customer is, we identify what their motivations for visiting our restaurant are, and then we can sort of start crafting and putting down into words what our unique value proposition is. You know, what makes our restaurant different from our competitors? You know, why are people choosing to visit our restaurant? Why do people look for our dishes? Why are people ordering from our restaurant instead of from our competitors? You know, that would be your unique value proposition. And that is really what makes your restaurant different and what you can take advantage of as well in your marketing effort. Because if your restaurant is the only one in your market area that produces a certain dish, and that dish is really popular with your customer, then that's definitely something you want to highlight in your marketing. If your restaurant has a product, a service, or experience that is not very easy to replicate, or that is very unique for one reason or another, you know, tied to a historical event or tied to something specifically, then that is something that you have as your unique value proposition. So you need to be aware of what those value propositions are, and make sure that they are always, you know, being delivered to the best possible way, so that they can remain relevant and they can remain an important factor when you're attracting customers to your restaurant. If you know who your customer is and then you know what motivates them, then you are now ready to start planning your marketing effort. So we have gathered data. You know, we are looking for data that is as accurate and current and reliable as possible. I know that the gathering of data and the research process for putting together a marketing plan is going to be very different from one restaurant to another. This is going to depend on whether you have the technical capacity in-house to be able to do your own market research and planning. This is going to depend on the amount of budget that you have available to do your research and planning. This is going to be impacted by the amount of time that you can dedicate to this effort. So there are a lot of different factors that are going to be impacted here. In some cases, this might be something that you as an owner or manager have to do yourself. So you have to fit this into your work schedule for all the other responsibilities that you have. In other cases, you might be able to hire somebody that is going to dedicate themselves specifically to the marketing area. And in other cases, you might hire a consultant or an external expert to come in and provide you with the research and the planning process of your restaurant. So this is going to be very different from one restaurant to the other. But regardless of the process that you are following, regardless of the resources that you are going to be able to dedicate to this, you need to strive to try to make sure that the data that you're gathering is accurate and it's current and it's information that you can make decisions based on. You know, if you are doing this on your own, a lot of the times it could be observation of what is happening and what you are observing with the customers that are coming to your restaurant. You know, by observation of the people that are coming to your restaurant, you can gather a data as to what is the group composition. You know, are people coming to your restaurant in couples? Are people coming to your restaurant as a core family group, parents and kids? Is your restaurant very popular with extended family groups where, you know, you, besides the core family, you are including grandparents and uncles and aunts, etc.? Or is this a restaurant where a lot of customers that are coming in by themselves? A lot of these elements you can gather just by observation in your restaurant. Obviously, the popularity of your dishes is also something that you can track, and you can maintain a accurate information based on your sales records. And if you want to start digging deeper into other things that are not things that you can observe directly from customers in your restaurant, the easiest and most cost-effective way to gather that information is to simply ask your current customers. Once you have identified those customer profiles that you want to attract more, then you can start communicating with them and asking them questions when they visit your restaurant. So for example, let's say that your restaurant wants to target families with young children. If you already have customers that fit that profile, if you already have families with young children that are coming to your restaurant, you can talk to them. And you can ask them the questions that you want to be able to get to know them better, because chances are that their opinion is going to be more in line with other people that have that similar structure versus people that are in a different group. So for example, a couple with no children, you know, the motivations and the elements that they are looking for in the restaurant experience could be very different between the couple with no children or the family with young children. So you can sort of put together a profile of what the customer segment wants by communicating and by asking questions to customers that fit that profile and that are already customers. You know, listening to those customers, you know, getting information from them. Obviously, if you are able to get those insights from current customers, if you proactively visit the tables in the restaurant, if you are communicating constantly with your customers, that is a great opportunity for you to gather that market intelligence data and start creating a little bit of that profile of the customer persona that you want to attract. But also, customers sometimes share their restaurant experiences online. So there are a lot of review sites, and there are also social media where customers are sharing the experiences that they have when they go out to restaurants. This is also a great opportunity for you to listen to your customers by reading the reviews, by looking at the types of photos and the type of content and the type of information that they are sharing after one of the visits to your restaurant. And this brings us to the online conversation. You know, we have in the restaurant industry known the power of word of mouth for a very long time. And now it's just basically that word of mouth has, you know, morphed into the digital age. You know, 15, 20 years ago, a lot of the restaurant marketing textbooks and a lot of the experts would say that normally 15, 20 years ago, a person would share something about their restaurant experience with maybe 5 to 7 people that were usually close friends or family members. You know, somebody went out to dinner and they liked the experience or they did not like the experience. And you could expect that that person could share that experience with maybe somewhere between 5 and 7 people. Now, people go out to restaurants and they are sharing their experience with the whole world. And a lot of them are sharing it in real time. People might be sitting down in your restaurant and they are taking photos of your food and they are uploading them in real time to social media, to review sites, and to other areas. So word of mouth in the digital age has really reached an exponential reach. You know, you have people that are sharing information and then people are liking that information and resharing the information. So this could be a great tool for marketing. This could really drive your marketing effort online because there is an added validation when you have a customer sharing a great experience in your restaurant online versus you paying for advertising. But at the same time, this is putting a lot of extra pressure on restaurant operators to be able to meet or exceed the guest expectations, because customers are equally willing to post and to share information online about a positive restaurant dining experience, but also about a negative experience. So you need to make sure that, you know, that is something that you always need to keep an eye out on. If hopefully you want customers to be sharing positive experiences in your restaurant, but in the eventuality that somebody is going to share a negative experience about a visit to your restaurant online, you know, the service failures that we talk about in hospitality, you need to have a plan in place to be able to address them immediately. So, you know, if you as a restaurant owner, manager are looking at maybe having a system for service recovery in place, you know, whenever a service failure happens in your restaurant, meaning whenever a guest expectations are not met, either by the quality or by the food or by the deliveries or service process, you need to have a clear system in place on how you are going to achieve that service recovery. How are we going to be able to make this right for the customer so that we can change the negative experience into a positive experience? And that can be done in many different ways. And this will vary from one restaurant to the other. In some restaurants, having a very proactive front of the house management works really well, because if you have a proactive approach to your front of the house management, you are sometimes able to anticipate the service failures or at least correct them when they are happening. So, you know, simple examples. You have a restaurant manager walking the floor, or you as an owner are walking the floor. And when food is delivered to a table, you immediately see that the customers in the table start looking around, maybe looking for the server or maybe looking for somebody from the staff or something. You automatically assume that they need something. Maybe it's a condiment, maybe something on the plate was not what the guest ordered. So if you're able to proactively approach that table and get that issue resolved, you are reducing the possibility that that service failure might turn into like a negative review or negative content online by the guests. So that could be one of the possibilities of having that system. Another one, if you are not able, or if you are not in the possibility of being very proactive in the front of the house, maybe you are the key person in your kitchen operation. So you need to really be in the back of the house for the service rushes of the restaurant. Then another possibility is to have your employees empowered to make decisions and to solve problems that arise with customers when they are in their dining experience. So that could be another possibility. You know, a lot of the times, if you are factoring in the cost of having to redo a dish and have those ingredients go to waste, or having to maybe comp, you know, an after dinner drink or a dessert or something else for a guest, the direct cost of that action, a lot of the times, is much cheaper than the damage that can be done on the restaurant's reputation when that information of the service failure goes online. So, you know, obviously you need to do your own numbers and you need to calculate what really works for your business model. But a lot of the times, if you have your employees empowered to be able to solve those decisions, you know, and you have the parameter set as to, you know, what can or cannot be done in order to solve those issues without escalating them to a manager, you have the possibility of solving a lot of the service failures that happen on a normal shift. The main goal here, regardless of what system you want to set in place or you maybe already have in place for service recovery, is that you want to anticipate those service failure moments and try to solve them as quickly as possible when they happen. So the marketing plan is our roadmap. The marketing plan is the guiding document that will provide us the key elements, the key strategic elements for our marketing effort. It is highly, highly recommended that you put your marketing plan down in writing. A lot of the times, and I know this especially is something that happens in smaller restaurants or in smaller businesses where maybe the owner operator, is a jack of all trades, having to wear many hats. I know that a lot of the times we can think that we have this information in our head and we know in our head what our customer or who our customers are and what sort of marketing or advertising tactics we need to do to them. And I know it's extra time to be able to sit down and write this down, but it really, really helps the effort. And a lot of the times the results from your marketing effort will be better if you take the time to write your plan down. Just the moment of sitting down to write your plan and making the connection between your target market, their motivations, the channels and mediums where you can communicate with them, the message that you want to communicate with them. Once you start putting all that together down on paper, usually it will give you a lot more clarity and it will give you a lot more a focus on where or how you can do the effort. So make sure that you're doing that. Also, if you have a marketing vision, if you have a goal, a vision, an idea of what you feel that your marketing should be, you need to share that with your team. You need to share that with your back of the house team. You need to share that with your front of the house team, because the experience that they provide to your customers is really the essence of what you are marketing. So you need to make sure that the effort that you are marketing is going to be reflected with the experience that your guests are receiving in the restaurant. So the people in your restaurant delivering that experience, creating that experience, need to be more aware of what that vision is. So it's very important. You need to make sure that everybody in the restaurant is on board so that you can all be focusing on the guest experience, and then your marketing effort is going to be used, as a leverage to bring that to your customers. What are the basic steps of a marketing plan? First, we want to do some research, and we talked about that a little bit earlier already. The research can be something as basic as doing an observation of your current customer base, asking questions, doing surveys, gathering information and feedback from their experience, or it can be something, as large as hiring a consulting team and doing extended research. This is going to really depend on many factors like we talked about before, but regardless of the size and the scope of your research, you need to make sure that you are dedicating time in your marketing plan at the beginning to do that research. Once you have gathered that research, and like we said before, you know who your customers are, you know the reasons why they are visiting your restaurant, you know what makes your restaurant different from your competitors, then you can start planning that effort. Where are you going to communicate with your customers? What sort of budget scenario are you looking at here to invest? What are the ideal channels, digital and traditional, that you want to use for that marketing plan? What are you going to achieve with the different tactics that you are putting in your plan? Your advertising, your promotional materials, your social media, your website, whatever the case of or combination of tactics that you put together in your plan. You need to make sure that they are, all of them, working together towards the same goal. Budget, you decide what budget should be. And again, budgeting for your marketing plan is going to be very, very customized to each restaurant. This is going to depend on your operation. This is going to depend on the available funds and cash flow that you have. This is going to depend on the staffing that you have. So, you know, you need to be able to set a budget that fits the reality of your restaurant, but also a budget that is going to allow you to compete and to have enough of a marketing presence as compared to your competitors. Once you have those three elements on the top, your research, your plan, and your budget, then you are ready for execution, for, you know, implementing your marketing plan. And when you are executing your marketing plan, you always want to keep measuring what are the results of that plan. You know, is the plan working? What are the expected outcomes that I have for each one of the tactics in the plan? And you are measuring that execution. And at the same time, you are adjusting your marketing plan. Just because you started the year and you had a couple of ideas and tactics that you wanted to implement for your marketing that year, if anything in the external environment of the restaurant, or if anything within the operation of the restaurant changes during that year, you need to be able to adjust your marketing and to those changes. So you need to be able to measure and adjust. In summary, know your customer, who our customer is, what is the motivation that they have for visiting our restaurants, what are those unique service propositions that we have, you know, what makes our restaurant different from our competitors, and why are people coming to our restaurant. Once you have gathered all that information, put your marketing plan down in writing, and then when you are executing, make sure that the marketing tactics and the activities that you are doing in traditional methods, you know, traditional media, outdoor media, printed materials, promotions, etc., has a connection and it's in harmony with the efforts and the tactics that you're doing on your digital channels, so that the customers can see that it's all one effort combined. We are going to now stop the recording, and if anybody has any questions or if anything, people can follow up. Just a little bit of a mention here, our next two sessions, which are going to be happening every 2 weeks, module number 2 is Digital Marketing 101, establishing your digital presence. And we are going to talk about creating or improving your restaurant's digital presence, the importance of having a website, engaging on social media channels and how to identify social media channels that would benefit your restaurant, and the importance of online reviews on new and potential guests. We will have a guest speaker from Yelp that will be talking to us about online reviews on that module 2. And then the third module, we are going to talk about creative strategies that you can use to stand out in a crowded cyberspace. Like we saw earlier today, the amount of content, the amount of information that is shared online digitally is enormous. So you need to be able to craft a story. You need to be able to take advantage of the different social media channels to be able to amplify a message that is tied around your story, that makes your restaurant, that makes your dining experience different from others. And this is my contact information. If you want to reach out with a question or with a follow-up, please do. Again, we want to thank American Express and the National Trust for Historic Preservation for sponsoring this restaurant marketing webinar series as part of the Backing Historic Small Restaurants grant.